Another cheery gospel. I understand the mother-in-law part, though. It is interesting. Our world naturally resets itself through all kinds of disasters. Well, we call them disasters. They're actually ways in which nature rebalances. So you get forest fires that are spontaneous, that forests generally have to burn down every 100 years or so to regrow. We see that in the way of fields and weather. We see it even in the changing of the magnetic poles over 25, 30,000 years. We see it in weather change, all ways in which the earth tries to reset itself, to balance itself. And in some ways or another, that's what I was thinking when I read this gospel, because Jesus is looking for a way to reset the world. In this case, reset us. How often we look back on what we're doing and find ourselves in just dreadful ruts, right? Every day you got a routine. We consult the phones at a certain time. We check our emails, our Instagrams, our social media stuff. There are certain times of the day we do this or that. And looking back, you'd say to yourself, I know what I'm going to do tomorrow, what I did yesterday. What about relationships? The same thing, isn't it? You know, we go through the motions, the routines. Kids have to be bathed and put to bed. You have to get school supplies. You got to get this or that. You got to get husband or wife off to work with food or coffee. It's the same old thing every day. And what we did yesterday, terribly, is what we're going to do in a week's time. We are in such ruts. I can understand where Jesus saw that and said, what do I do? How do I get people on their ear to listen again, to do something new, to be human, which means to be different, not to be in a rut all the time. That's why we've got the big brains and the animals don't. We're given that ability to change, given that ability to do new things, and most especially, given the joy of relationships if we weren't in such ruts. It's the peck on the cheek to the husband or wife before work, if that. There's always this routine, and you got that list of, now before you come home, this is what you got to do. How do we reset ourselves? Jesus wanted a fire, and I must admit that is a tad excessive. Plus, if you start starting fires, I think you might have some legal issues. So how do we reset? We reset by sitting quietly on our own. We reset by isolating ourselves briefly and recapturing who we are. A good way to do that is to review your day and to say, all right, what happened today? And then to promise yourself, I'm going to do something different tomorrow. Or I'm not going to procrastinate. I'm going to do this that I've been putting off. Breaking the rut. Bathrooms are great places for contemplation. If you've got a lock on the door and you don't have a stream of people always wanting to use it, it's a great place. You have to find a place in your home where you can reset. And resetting isn't violent, like starting fires. Resetting is that calmness that we don't normally enjoy in our daily lives. We're constantly busy. I like to watch people on trains and buses. They get on, and as soon as they're on, even before they're even safely seated, that phone is out. And they got the thumb working away. It's as if you can't wait 4 minutes to know what's going on in the world, which you already know anyway because it's repeated all the time. We have to look at our lives in new ways. And our technological toys seem to really hinder us. Now, I love toys. I've got a phone. I love all the technology. I'm always looking for the new gadget. But I also have to challenge myself and say, There's a point when I'm a human being and not a slave to some machinery, which is really just kind of to idle the time. I mean, how did we survive with landlines? You didn't know what messages were on your phone until you got home. And then the great discovery, you could call in and hear your messages. And now everything is instant. We need to reset ourselves. And as complicated as our lives are, we need to reset ourselves even more often. So the challenge for us is what Jesus says. Oh, how I wish the world were on fire. And if it takes father against son and son against father, if it takes that kind of conflict and tension, Jesus was willing to see that happen for the sake of our well-being. Because after the fire comes new growth. That's why nature has fires or bad weathers. New things come out of that. For us, let's not be that drastic. Let's recognize we can reset. And once we've figured out a way to do that for ourselves, then we need to sit down with our family and say, now, what do you need to reset? And each of you kids and husbands and wives, it will be different for each of you. And we need to respect that. But we need to reset. So let's take that as our challenge today. How do we reset ourselves so that we're aware of the needs of others, so that we're human once again?